when Denis hop into Japan, we will talk a little bit and go on a part.
Das ist die Leider gen Natur, jeden Rheinwein Zecher. Dennis,
Yeah.
I don't care about the program. With Larissa sitting beside me, I don't need
Stop
anything
it.
else. I bask in her beauty.
Я его довожу каждый раз на этих
The
концертах.
performance means nothing to me.
Во-первых, мы опаздываем, он должен бежать. Он все это ненавидит.
But when I try to communicate, shut up. Shut up.
No, I don't say shut up. I say be quiet.
Same thing.
I think
Shut
no,
up.
I think be quiet is a polite to say. Be quiet is polite to say.
Right. Yeah.
You said
Well,
not.
she overdoes it, She doesn't say,
Please.
please, or wait a minute, or something like that. When she wants to say something and interrupt, she says, be quiet. She doesn't really realize that that's an insult, kind of, very, very rude anyway.
Okay.
So, but she doesn't.
Once I did the
realize.
same mistake.
Yeah.
So I was announcing
Oh yeah.
my friend's recital and urging people to not to make the noise. I said,
Please.
be quiet.
Yeah.
But they were laughing a lot. I
That
didn't
must
realize
be a
why.
Russian equivalent.
Yeah, for us it's okay.
Yeah.
Like silence.
Silence.
Can I say something? It would be better.
Yeah, can I say something? Yeah. Can I advise you to be quiet? Or shut up?
No. I feel uncomfortable here today.
It was good like yesterday.
Damn.
It's okay. It's
This damn thing. Yeah. I don't like that thing. There was the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, and the Canadian government saw fit to pay for veterans, and there were about 40 of us in Canada left. Of course, we all had to be in our 90s, including myself. So, yes, they sponsored a trip to Holland, after which we were on our own to go where we fenced.
What kind of events were
Well,
organized?
there were formal cemeteries, 3 Canadian cemeteries.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I was most familiar with the northern area of Holland, Germany. So it was in Neuverdaal, Holland, that I went. I took my son along as well, 70 years after the event. He was quite impressed. Yes. And we were met with virtually the same enthusiasm and kindness, generosity of the Dutch civilian population as they did from February through to May 1945, when we chased the Germans right out to Hengelo, Holland, at the German border. Aber das war einmal. Best vergessen. Best to forget it. But c'est impossible. Also, что ты хочешь? They married right after World War I. My father from Luninets, near Minsk. What was then Poland. Changes all the time, as you well know. And my mother, she's 100% German, like my old man is 100% Russian. They met, goodness knows why. They found common ground, but they married around 1920 and came over and to Canada and I was the third. Four. But they didn't, they just got married, and Vladimir was already born. But they came to Canada, and right away. So soon after they were married, couldn't speak German, and she had to speak a little Russian that she knew, largely from him. But the minute they came to Canada, of course, had to speak English. So us three boys, we didn't learn any Russian or German, really. Very, very little. Because they're already in Canada and still young, still a young couple. In Fort Frances, Ontario. Yeah. And that's where I spent my misspent youth, arriving on the West Coast as a juvenile delinquent, age 15. At which time the war was on, and I had a couple muscles from farming in Ontario, so I did very well financially, stevedoring on the New Westminster waterfront. They were short of manpower, and that put me through university, actually, even though I had some credits from 2 years serving in the Canadian Army. Much of the tuition was paid for, but there were still living expenses. And by that time, I was happily married and 2 lovely daughters. So I needed additional support. There was only one problem: to continue receiving benefits long after my term was over, which was 1 month's education for 1 month's service. Medicine takes a long time, and you need a bachelor's degree before you're even considered in arts or something. So money runs out pretty quickly. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I was able to continue 6 years studying medicine. Why 6 years? I was a slow learner. No, number 2, the course is overseas in the British Isles, because there were no medical schools in Canada, but 1 or 2, and they were already booked for years in advance, virtually. So I went overseas and had to keep up by being in the top 10% of the class. And with kids, I never worked so hard in my life before, ever since. Anyway, there we are. For some reason best known to themselves, they saw fit to graduate me. And I've been a menace and a hazard to the public ever since, in the capacity of a so-called physician and surgeon, an emergency physician.
Are you a religious man?
A what?
A religious man?
Oh, hell no. Having said that, whether one wants to admit it or not, there is a little bit of the God, the Spirit, in everyone. How can we not be? This world that we're born into, just look around yourself. Look at it. Where did it come from? Isn't it lovely? Everything there at your disposal. You lucky SOB, If that's not a touch of religion and the respect for Mother Nature is what we have to call it if we don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. I don't disbelieve in God. I don't even know or care if there is a God. I'm so damn busy looking after my own selfish self-interests that I can't be too concerned with those ethereal, highfalutin things. Because my wife was quite religious, not a fanatic by any means, but she grew up that way. So much depends on your upbringing. And we were so far out on the farm that, and so much to do around the farm, to go miles walking there and back to church or even Sunday school. Pain in the ass for everybody concerned, especially us kids. Bible school for a little while, but for one reason only. There was the most delicious cake always being served that had that lovely, lovely white icing on top. Yeah, I still see that. I can still taste it. But I was only about 10. And my little legs couldn't carry me that far anymore, especially in 4 feet of snow in the middle of Canada, Fort Francis, Ontario, 45 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. I did pause there once. I left at age 15, like I say, to come to the West Coast. I dropped by on my way home from overseas for old time's sake. Not very much changed. As much to be with the local citizenry, to honor those of us who didn't come back. And there was I looked at it statistically some time ago, and there must have been close to 25, 30 in that small community of 2,000, roughly, in Fort Francis at the most, that were in the services. And the casualty list was very high. A month or two after the war started in 1939, our principal joined up immediately. He had enough of us brats. But he was no further than 50 when a U-boat caught up to the first troop ship that left Canada for overseas. I don't know how many were on that, but it was a specific voyage for volunteers to land in England, and they didn't make it. There are things that stand out during the war, but I don't dwell on them. Yes, so on a troop ship, yeah.
On the ship. Yeah.
It took almost 2 weeks. It was the only troop ship, so dodging U-boats. We were freezing up in the north. Next week, we were sweltering near the equator. It was zigzagging its way to England, finally landing in Liverpool in December 44. So I had about 4 months to get shot at, and here we are. Yeah.
So, and did you serve on the land or?
Yes. Yeah. I volunteered from UBC. I wasn't learning a hell of a lot. Chasing women was more fun, whether it was productive or not. Sitting on my ass, being lectured at, I didn't care for. And that would have meant another year with the officers' corps in Kingston that I was selected for. So I declined. Thank you very much. And before I know it, before I knew I got what I was wished for. Next week, I found myself in Aldershot, in the barracks, waiting to hit the continent. So that's what I wanted. My brothers were in the service the whole war. Whole world was at war. Brother George was in the Navy, overseas on the destroyer Huron. Brother Wally was in the Air Force. What was I doing at UBC? Learning nothing, or very little of interest. So there we are, and that brings us up to today. I trust, more or less. I met my I met the other half. I'm not religious, but I certainly think if there is anything or anybody to thank, good fortunate, the shithouse luck, the fate, whatever, the gods, if you wish, or God, for meeting my wife, a charming English woman, name of Olive Parker. Didn't meet her overseas, but it didn't take us long to find common ground, and we married on January the 14th, 1949, and lived happily for 60 years, short 2 weeks. 60 years, short 2 weeks. And she gifted me with 3 children, 3 lovely children. Yeah. I have a poem about her. I don't think I have it. I brought music. Physically, of course, everything, the structures, the building, and so forth. But I don't know. Canadians are still the same. Yeah, they're not like the Americans, full of BS and bravado. But we are some sort of orphan in between the British and the Americans. We like to think we take the best of both, and that's Canada. And that's us. But they have varying opinions of us. I can't say that we are. We don't get over there quite so often. There's distances, and we don't get to Europe often enough. It would be an education that we all would benefit from. But no, we should encourage more students from schools to be sponsored for trips over there. There's lots over there that we have to learn from, and it opens their eyes to generations, a history there that is there like an open book, but closed to us if we don't take advantage. And we're so occupied with our hockey and domineering events to the south in the states that we cheat ourselves, taking advantage of the opportunity. Well, like I say, I mentioned of profanity here. They're full of bullshit, and we're full of bravado. That would be the difference, I think, between the two. Yeah, we have no reason to be that brave and forthcoming, but we do nevertheless. Yeah. I don't know. There's lots of differences. Like I say, we still have our British connections, but forget the British now. With all the immigration from Europe, our British heritage, like my wife's, coming from Yorkshire, is just a small portion now. The influx from the British Isles was quite significant after the war, but it's everywhere now, and allotted accordingly, very, very properly. The Department of Immigration have got it all mapped out, how many from where and when, and to come, and so forth. Yes, we're a fair country. We try to be fair. I like to think that's the case. Yeah. Of course, who said the world was fair? Who said life was fair? But at the same time, I'm very glad to have been born a Canadian. Very proud and lucky. Very fortunate. Yeah. And I don't go around beating my gums or the drums, but I have good reason to. And that is certainly borne out when one goes to Asia or elsewhere. And this, like I said, to repeat myself, is something that should be encouraged, perhaps even more so in schools for the younger generation. Yeah. And they come back stronger for it. Yeah. The videos aren't good enough. You have to see the people one-on-one, be it Asia, be it Europe, wherever. And I'd like to see more provision for that purpose. You must remember that has been part of my official capacity as a physician. We aren't taught enough, in school, just how to address these things to younger people. And there is a place for it, but the best teacher is experience. And yes, I do whenever I have occasion to. And some of my poems are actually directed, one or two in particular, directed to the youth. They're geared to that audience. Well, I might not have had that in mind initially, but they are more suitably presented to the younger people. In their teens and up, though. I don't know what to tell their little kids. They're to be loved, to be spoken to. His heritage, and that includes parents coming from somewhere else, which is what Canada and the US is primarily composed of anyway. We shouldn't forget that heritage. Yeah, there's so much Canadian that we live with every day that we should reflect at certain moments and be thankful for what we have. We are indeed, Canadian. But not to the point of, bragging about it necessarily. Yeah. We like to think that's the zone the Americans love to wallow in. But we're supposed to be a little bit more restrained, a little bit more British, if you will. Yeah. But for me, to hell with it. I'm too emotional to kind of pull away from braggadocio. And that goes for my singing too. You want to hear me sing? I've got Mozart, I've got Verdi, so on, so on, so on. Do you have Mephisto's Serenade?
Yes, I do.
Do you? Bocchi Fetta?
I just need to find it.
Nuvrata porta ma bella, che la vago doit. Ne non baiser ma mia, que la bague au doigt, que la bague au doigt. Ha 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 ha. Well, 70 years after the war, it was certainly time to go back. And the Canadian government was generous in providing the transportation and some accommodation. So about 40 of us in our 90s, of course, by this time, went back to reminisce and help mark the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, at which I hardly got in the building and I was asked to say something on the spot. Fortunately, I had my briefcase with me so I could quote directly this poem that I wrote. In final tribute, which is what we were there for, to pay tribute to those who were unable to come back. It was a long time to wait, but there we were. In final tribute. Near charming town in Holland, Neuwerdal, in aftermath of Second World War, a cemetery, military, exists. Contains remains of Canadians, all still in battle dress. Heavy pall of stillness hugs the air, commanding one but whisper there on hallowed ground, where persons ambling stoop at stone after stone, seek, till cherished name is found. Where flitting sparrows pause to present seemly eulogy, a plaintive sound. Tombstone army on parade, uniformly white. To win the battle, be prepared to lose a fight. Guardian shrine stands tall, proud, in immortal service to its charge. Below, just below, entombed in native soil, the very soil brave soldiers came to free, all the way from Burnaby, Chicoutimi, St. Anthony, to liberate from Nazi yoke of tyranny. Oh, so many years ago. 70 years, in fact. But hey, the vets are back. Ha, 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 ha. Look at 'em. Somewhat scraggly, this sorry lot. Out of step, out of shape, some even sporting belly pot. But proud these survivors who fall in line again, in formation. Frail of form, yet strong of determination. Some dormant reflex somehow comes alive, makes moving parts jump smartly to a 10. Shut! Please, do see us as before, cocky comrades in ugly war, shrunk to humble messengers from home, our Canada, come to honor you, show respect and admiration. You served nobly, died. Some at this very place, ill-fated final mission, so close, alas, to day of armistice. It's here we stand at foot of grave, bound, with bond unbroken, thoughts unspoken, I alive, thee in decay. Pray, to the other, what would but say? The whole world was at war. Rationing, people dying everywhere, the civilian population as well. The Normandy hadn't started yet, but one country after another was falling to the Germans. And my two brothers, one in the Navy, on the Canadian destroyer Huron, and my other brother in the Air Force. What the hell was I doing sitting on my ass not learning anything at UBC? I wasn't learning anything anyway. I was singing Gilbert and Sullivan with the 50 cork. Anyway, chasing girls and not catching any. It was time to go do something. I was already in the Officers Training Corps, a battle drill school in Burnaby. And so I just went for active duty now, for immediate overseas. That's what I signed on. Not for more training, not for home defense like Trudeau. You didn't have to go. And that's like that. I found myself in England and then in Holland, Belgium, Holland, all the way through to the end of the war.
How old were you at that time?
19. Yeah. Well, I show this to everybody.
Is it you?
No.
Leonard.
Of course it's me. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I have a German dagger at home. It's this long. It has a swastika on a bone handle.
Right.
For German SS youth.
Wow.
Who were determined to die, sacrificial.
Uh-huh.
That's part of their culture. That's part of their training, and they're prepared to die. They're like terrorists. Yeah. They're not going to be prisoners. And the kid I got it off, it couldn't have been more than 16, 17. At the end of the war, that's all that was left often. The German army was so decimated on the Eastern Front that we were looking at kids and old men at the end of the war. We expected a big stand, a big defense on the German border, because it was easy going through Holland. Well, relatively. But the war was pretty well over, thanks to the Russians. And so I'm saying, this is what I got. He handed it to me. I didn't have to take it away. He just didn't want to be killed after all. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough. Where's my blinky?
Blinchiki, not
Where's
blinky.
my
Blinchiki.
Yeah.
Over there.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Wait. I'm sorry.
Food first.
Of course.
Yeah.
Were you in the British forces, or it was
No,
some
no,
Canadian regiment?
No, but when I got to, because I ended up being reinforcements. I should have been with the Seaforth Highlanders, because they came from Burrard Street Armory, and they were in Italy. They were ready to come back because the Italian campaign was over. So I was just reinforcements. They put me wherever was necessary. And so I was seconded to the 21st Army Group, Montgomery, General Montgomery, is where I ended up. Engineers.
Engineers.
It
Okay.
was engineers. And the infantry was to protect
Okay.
and build, whatever's necessary. You build bridges, especially for tanks to go over and what's necessary. Yeah. But I was in straight infantry. Well, we had some jobs to do, like clearing the coastline, those islands off Holland there. But the Germans already left, which is just as well because, 12 men in a landing craft with the defenses, we were like sitting ducks, if the island was defended. But there's a whole bunch of islands. That was all the Elms Canal there. But no, there wasn't much fighting anymore. We were just chasing the Germans. They'd hold up they'd make a stand, we'd clear that out. But they didn't wait too long. They retreated again.
Yes.
And they held up another place and so on. So little place after another, retreating back to Germany where we expected a big show. So we were just chasing the Germans out because the big war was already over. Remember, I was still too young. That's why I couldn't get back. Some Canadians were there for 6 years. Others 3, 4, 5 years. Being young, I had to stay in Germany with other young guys for 1 year to keep the Germans from causing more trouble. There's so many other things to look after when a country is defeated, because there's looting and
So bringing the order.
well, yeah, and still pockets of resistance to clean up still, and a lot of sabotage. Yeah, like every soldier wants some whiskey or some alcohol. You don't get it from the army,
Yeah.
no, or cigarettes, no. So you trade things for cigarettes, and you steal it from, and you get some cigarettes and you get some booze. But the Germans spike it with benzene, Kartoffelschnaps und Benzene, and they go blind from the methanol.
Yeah. The methanol. Yeah, no.
Yeah. And they put sand in your gas tank. Lots of stuff like that. Yeah. You go to the toilet and you pull it and boom. But mostly black market, yeah. I like music. And in Oldenburg, it was already about 1 year after the war already. Almost, no. And this Swiss guy, he was a bass baritone who entertained the Germans through the war. An opera company. And I liked his singing. They just started up again for the soldiers, for the Canadians and the British. They looked after the Germans, but now the war was over. They were able to make a little money to go back to Switzerland. And I admired this one German, the Swiss. I said, "Can you teach me to sing?" And he said, "Not as good as I am, but yeah, I'll teach." And of course, he loved my cigarettes. In my mess, the officers' mess and the sergeants' mess, we got cartons and cartons of cigarettes from Canada. And Johnny Walker's Scotch, Canadian Club whiskey, we'd get it in our mess from Canada. So I gave him all this. I have, no? I don't know that one well enough.
Which one? La ba ba. happened?
Oh.
You know.
No, about death, it's more
yes.
funny. It's more funny.
Well, yeah, we spoke enough about war, didn't
Yeah.
we? And terrible things. So we'll leave the maiden and death to themselves. Yeah.
Would you like to sing that one?
In meinen Armen schlafen.
Chords progression.
Vorüber, ach vorüber, geh, wilde Knochermann. Ich bin noch jung, geh lieber und rühre mich nicht an, und rühre mich nicht an.
It was very peaceful.
It is. It's Schubert, yeah. It's serenading, and you didn't respond. I don't see you in my arms, sleeping. When do you sleep?
I'm still awake and alive.
I'll bet you your dreams are full of activity too, aren't they? She never, I don't ever see her sitting, you know.
I'd like to sit down.
Oh, where is it? Bombast. Bombast. Oh. Wow. You have an acting talent.
I didn't. That doesn't take any talent. That doesn't take any talent. But that's enough. Well, like I said before, I'm of Russian heritage. My father's Russian and my mother's German. And let me see now. I have a friend named of Larissa Divakova. She's a professional musician, excels at the piano and voice, both, having graduated from the Conservatory of Music in Moscow. We won't say when. A fine and lovely lady she is, whom I admire greatly. And here's a poem for her, a little silly thing, to Larissa. When she intimated she was going to go back to Russia and go up north, where the work was, she already did a tour of duty up in northern Russia already some years ago. I'm pleading with her. Oi, go not north. Please, go not Sibir, Sibir tak zamorozhne. Siberia's frozen solid. Oh, Larissa, be so kind. We beg you, change your mind. They're curious natives. Watch you closely. It is of the old Russian era that you would remind. Your lovely smile would melt the ice fields. Water enough to match the flood of tears, tears of brine, shed by those who love you, dear. Now all alone to sit and pine, unhappy to be left behind, such as he, most certainly, such as he. your beauty and talent unmistakable. Love of music, skilled performance, so admirable. Character and reputation, unassailable. In short, it's plain to see that Mrs. D is the absolute epitome of goodness, of grace, of humility. By such as me, moi Lubov, da, such as me. I got special leave to go to Berlin, Potsdam, and the Russians were really enjoying themselves. These poor guys in dirty battle dress, like overalls, still dirty. And their teeth were yellow. I don't think they ever had toothpaste or toothbrushes. They were grabbing every German they could with a watch, take their watch from them. There were 7 of them down the street, arm in arm, singing, locked together. And you, in your uniform, whether you're from a different country, didn't matter. You had to get out of the way. Why not? They freed Berlin. We didn't, but you wouldn't expect that normally. But they would just march right through you if you didn't get out of the way. Unter der Lindenstrasse.
But were they aggressive or they were fine?
No, they weren't.
Just happy.
Weren't just happy.
Just
yeah,
happy, of course.
And of course, proud.
Yeah.
Why should they be? Yeah. It didn't matter that we had ties on, and a well-dressed, a good press in my trousers. Mm-hmm. I was the only one that went to university right after the war in my group there. So the major, he decided that there would be an education corps, some Canadian occupying Germany, but as an education corps. And we would do things for the troops or what have you. And I was in charge of that. So it was so soon after the war, I felt then, if I'm going to bring the truth home to people, I better go to Belsen-Bergen. Belsen, what does that mean to you? Auschwitz. It's the Western Auschwitz. Belsen-Bergen. My driver and I took off south Bremen down to Belsen-Bergen, home of the Pied Piper. The Pied Piper's Hamlin down there. Belsen-Bergen was in the woods. I wasn't more than a kilometer away from the concentration lager. I could smell. The vegetation was, I didn't go touch it, but it was oily from the flesh, from the smokestacks. You could smell. I'm not going to say anything more. Most of the bodies were already covered up. I got the hell out of there as quick as I could. Displaced persons, grabbing a hold of you, all wanting where their relatives, putting up notices, trying to find their relatives, all milling around. Freedom at long last, skinny. They'd stuffed themselves all with food already. But they were lost. They were lost. They experienced the freedom, the happiness, but now, of course, they were sad. They were alone. Where their relatives, And they were coming to you too for help, and I couldn't offer any help. I also saw German airborne people. I don't know why they were so close to the concentration camp. I think so they were safe, felt safe there. The Allies knew that there was a German concentration camp through intelligence, so they never bombed. So these injured paratroopers, Germans, were. I went to see them, but they grabbed me like an officer to inspect them. I didn't expect that, but the Germans were still so instilled with that militarism that they conducted me like I was inspecting these guys that were lying in bed with fevers from malaria, even. And they stood to attention out of their beds. I didn't want that. I didn't. I got out of there, and I never took anybody back to look at the camp. And it also happens to be where there's 2,000 Canadians at this Canadian War cemetery. And some of my friends out there came to pay respects to them. It was like a tide. I was so overcome. It was like I was hit by a tide of emotion. I didn't expect that. I was so saddened. Every veteran like myself, they wonder why it's not me in there. That's common. But I wanted to get the hell out of there. I never thought it would be so emotional. It was so sad. I went back to the hotel and I stayed up till 2:00 in the morning writing my folks. I had to express myself. So I wrote a very sad letter to all 3 children. Yeah. The Dutch are so appreciative. At that gravesite, every Christmas, the kids come, lay
flowers.
Yeah, well, you know how Holland with their poppies, lay a poppy at every grave, every Christmas. And then, of course, 70 years, every 10 years, there's a big deal. So, and one of the medals here, like this one, that's from Defense of Holland.
Okay.
That's before I spent $10,000 making a more beautiful face and paying for a hair dye and new teeth, so on. So, well, I go to their graves too, the underground, you know, that sacrificed in sabotage and so on, and a lot of them were killed, whole families. In reprisal for some, if they killed a German soldier, all the men in the village would be shot. That happened. So,
I'm going to visit one more time.
Yes, that'll be 70 years. 10 years after this one. That's next May the 9th, 10th. In that same village that I was at, because that village, every village and town and city in Holland, their Liberation Day is their holiday. Not one day like November 11th, but the day that they were liberated.
Yeah. Okay.
So it would be nice to go back. It's not a big deal. Because, like I say, it affected me so much I didn't expect so. And anyway, but that's all sentimental stuff. And it would be nice to take a trip with my son, my grandson. Tell me in Russian, 91 years.
91 год.
12.
90.
Да, что?
91 год.
All I know about time is 12 часов по ночам. Тарам-па-па-пам-па-па-пам. 12 часов по ночам. I have to name that person that's been most outstanding, and that's Larissa Divakova. She's more than my girl Friday. No, yeah. She's my inspiration. She's my guiding hand. She's my tutor. And my idol. There's just one thing to steal yet.
What?
Your love.
You didn't steal. Who's gonna steal the love? Nobody. Nobody.
What do you expect from a poet? Huh? Yeah.
I'm deeply in love with
you
you
know,
long time ago.
We're romantic. We're crazy. You know. Yeah. It's all imagination. What a superlative is in English grammar. Superlative
No, supportive or
is the highest possible compliment. Beautiful isn't good enough. It has to be in excess of that even. That's a superlative. Larissa,
Say again this word support.
there aren't enough in the world
Never.
of superlatives that are in Webster's dictionary or in the English language. And they all belong to you, Larissa.
Leonard, what is in your bag today? Nothing?
That's sadly all in vain. Yeah. We shake hands. That's all. Yeah. Мой красивая друга.
Мой красивый друг. Подруга.
This is what I call her. You know what she calls me? Ти.
Нет, я так не говорю.
Чурбан.
Нет, не говорю, я так не говорю.
That's not the end of the story. My grandson, he joined the Canadian Army. And it was like that he went to Germany. And it was at the time where in six Canadians in their vehicle were blown up in Iraq. And so 6 Canadians came back all at once. And it was that same week that he was in Germany for training. That's the jumping off place in Germany to go to Afghanistan and Iraq. Yeah. Just Iraq at that time. And of course, my daughter-in-law, she was very upset. I was too. So I wrote him a letter, special dispatch, quick, by the Canadian Army, that he should get immediately. And they delivered it to him. But it was in the form of a poem. November the 11th. It's not a celebration, it's a commemoration. Not just one war, but it's sorry to have to say many wars. You're still on, yeah. And this is a poem pertaining thereto, and it's called My Father. It speaks to all wars, particularly the questionable cause of the war in the first place. After several years, the troops in the jungle and elsewhere don't even know what they're fighting for, if they ever did in the first place. But war seems to go on again. My father, only one of people who perish, not just those in the war, but many, many, many other innocents as well. My father went to war, did he, with uncles, others, dutifully, to face a distant foe, a faceless foe that, taking aim, one never, ever wants to know. And overseas he died, did he, as others died, obediently. In righteous war of need and justice they proclaim. But power, greed, vengeance, religious zeal, are not these the very seeds of war? The very aim? Pray, say again, your de facto cause, was it truly just, or just because? My father died in war this day. What was the cause again, you say? There, 'neath bloody ground of infamy, lie pawns and heroes adjacently. Cannot you see and feel the fear, and ready to die, the troubled stare, frozen there upon young faces? Cannot you hear voices plaintive, echoing bitterly? Mistrust all men in higher places. Mistrust all men in higher places. Thus duty wrought and honor sought, now lie barren, ignoble, unrewarded, along with sacrificial flesh to rot. From silent lip and fallen hand is told again, the fallibility of man. Corollary. It's a boy! Ha, ha! Congratulations! Hallelujah! It's a boy! What paradox! Behold our man-child, chaste, but babe reveals a mind impure, evil, wherein all goodness becomes displaced. Imbued is he, innocently, with innate need to kill. Diabolical curse, this virulent gene, carry it he must. And carnage will, alas, continues still. So left are we, with but hope and trust that beneficent saints and goodly gods might yet succeed their doomed endeavor to save us, you and I, from each other. My father died in war today. What was the cause again, you'd say? I didn't know who I was looking at in the grave that I was standing at. The uniform was clear enough, but the face I couldn't make out. At first, was it me? But Jay, is it my son, my grandson? That's what I couldn't. I couldn't face. Yeah, I wanted to come home right away. Yeah. Anyway, he just did his training, and he go to after all. Yeah, he was only 18, 19 at the time anyway, and so those that went from Germany, he just trained there. But the older guys that were in the army for regulars, they went to Iraq instead of him. So Okay, he's parachuting still right now. Yeah, so everybody's happy. Yeah, and I'm happy. Yeah, but yeah, we got away easy. It's the Russian front that was a devastating, terrible
Yeah.
scene. The Leningrad and all the civilian population.
Yeah.
Some millions killed as a result of it. We had it easy in the West, relatively speaking. You can't convince the children, the wives, and so forth of those who didn't come back, of course, but who paid the supreme sacrifice. But does it mankind any good to reflect on these things? We do, but then we just dismiss it and go about our daily chores as you would expect us to. But what bothers me is what I said in the poem, that innate seed, that gene that we human beings are born with. From the moment we were able to stand on our two hind legs, from four legs or amphibians or whatever, we kill each other. Yeah, yeah. So I'm asking for protection from you, and you need protection from me. Ah, yes.
So during the Second World War, it was definitely that you was fighting for freedom.
Yes. You don't pay any attention to that. You're involved so deeply. Don't even think of it as propaganda. It's crap that we have to listen to. You know, it's like the minister, because it's Sunday, we have to listen to him too. We don't know what the hell he's talking about and care even less. We want to get the hell off our feet because we're standing there uncomfortable while he's giving his sermon. You're a soldier. That's what you have to do, and you accept it. And that's the end of it. Yeah.
So you joined army mostly just because your brothers were in army.
Because of war. It's what you
Everybody.
do. It's what you do. You're outside of things when everybody's so involved. Your own family. Of course, my mother was also very upset, but she never tried to show it too much. Didn't help any, but she felt it. Yeah. 3 sons, no daughters, and Air Force, Vladimir, Navy, Georgi, Army, Leonard. That's why we won the war. Air Force, Navy, and Army. We won the war. Zimich. Where's Papa? My children want to know, where's Papa? Hey, here I am. In sinful city I'm a gambling. With female friend away, like I did say, clear objective, well defined, a big gamble of a different kind entirely in mind. Cohabitation. To cohabitate or not. An experimental underplot with proxy wife, a cautionary play, might say, before one ever ties the knot. Final decision daring when both comparing the time is now too short, I fear. For game of hide and miss, hit and miss, called married bliss, a sharing. But oh, how tempting, how welcoming, my dear, that glow of joint contentment. Let us savor today together. A new harmony, finally, that happiness long sought. There, row on row, clattering machines a slot. of good fortune only shattering, yielding naught. Did I mention we're in Las Vegas now? I should have. So what? Return to greater purpose, the task disposed. Attend to greater experiment, a challenge self-imposed. Intimacy, compatibility, fun, a taste. Ah, yes, with most charming lady, full-time engrossed. And yet is felt an air, a sense of deep unease. Casino itself a sham, glitzy arena of sleaze. Self-doubt permeates the scene, troubling mind and thought. Our conduct, too, you see, all strange, unseemly, and does mark this maiden union indecent, improper, shamelessly begot. Decision time. Confused, distracted, no longer be, though the senses may plead and desire bleed. Cold logic calls the shots. Drop the plot enacted. Seems you forgot the rule. Solitude is cool. Trumps servitude that's cruel. Your dubious trial concocted, end with a knot. Conjugal life of innocent love, mere dream, a magnet. Go alone again, old man. Grasp life's closing fragment. And yes, I admit myself unfit. A dithering twit, might say, now facing disapprobation. Yet, full aware of my limitations, wise or witless must announce. No, not yet, not set my wavering inclination. To, with you, fair lady, or other, live in state of cohabitation. Not. And as for Vegas, radix malorum cupiditas est. Money is the root of all evil. Yeah.
So you wanted to be a doctor?
Oh, well, eventually, yeah. I flunked physics and chemistry. No, physics and mathematics. So I found out, you know, that sciences and engineering was not for me. I thought it was would be at first, but not after you fail.
Yeah.
Fail miserably. Well, thanks largely to the Department of Veterans Affairs. After the war, we got different benefits. Well, land to farm is what some soldiers took. I elected to go to back to university, so I was eligible for month-to-month tuition every month in the Army. You could say at university for a month. But it took me 6 years to graduate in medicine. Slow learner. Everybody else, 4 years. Me, I'm a poor learner. I ran out of benefits in 2 years, and I had to study for 6 years. I was kidding you about, because I took complicated obstetrics at Trinity College Dublin, which is one of the foremost universities in Europe, all of Europe, since 1490, when Columbus didn't even come to America. It's still a very famous university, medical school, and especially obstetrics. It's 6 years. And there was, out of 115, 120 of us, there was only 35 that graduated. And some of those were from the year before. And so it was a 6-year course. But being eligible for only the 2 years when it ran out, I had to make some money. I took the cheapest flight from Jerusalem that stopped in Dublin on the way to New York to go find a job as a lumberjack cutting down trees in upstate New York to make some money, because my wife was expecting a child in September, October, November. I didn't have to worry too much. All I had to do for the next 4 years, because they needed doctors so badly in Canada, they continued to pay, even though I made extra money, on the roof of the airport, Aer Lingus in Dublin, putting Canadian tin tests down on the roof, or else being carried away like a parachute with a 4x6 feet sheet of in the wind up on the airport roof. I did make some money as a logger back in Europe, back in New York. But the Department of Veterans Affairs said, okay, you've got excellent recommendations in writing, his own handwriting, from the Dean of Medicine himself. And so they said, okay, but you have to be in the top 10%. And I didn't have the brains for that. I had to work 24 hours a day. Yeah, I had to study like a bastard. I couldn't rely on, like my brother Vladimir, he was smart. And my daughter Susan, she's clever, but not me. I had to work. I had to work hard to study. Yeah. So that allowed me to finish up amongst the 35 that finally graduated. And of course, I came back to New Westminster, where I was a juvenile delinquent. Newly arrived in 1942, 43 from Ontario, where I was born. Yeah. So New Westminster and the Columbian Hospital was home to me. Yeah. Well, I liked obstetrics so much, but, I needed the money. And the way things work out, you have little or no control over it. You're so content to finally settle in and make a living and provide a home for your family. I already had 2 children. That you just stay there. And everything's so familiar and so easy, relatively easy, that I just stayed. This is home, and still is. New Westminster. Well, my wife died 9 years ago, natural causes, after 58 years of marriage, continual marriage. 2 weeks short of 58 years together. I just sort of fell into it, maybe about 5, 6 years ago. And it was just things that you feel or think that are crying out to be said, but who the hell are you going to say them to? Who the heck is interested anyway? And you forget about it anyway and go on to the next thing. But they still linger there, and they return. So you pick up a pencil and start to scribble. But I'm so musically inclined. Poetry emerged out of it. You can't separate the two. And so everything had to rhyme, which makes it doubly difficult. You sacrifice so much. Yeah. 20 years as a family doctor in New Westminster. In 1975, after 18 years, my nurse told me I had delivered over 1,000 babies already. Yeah. And I quit. I quit because who was coming in? 17, 18-year-olds that I had already delivered. Oi, oi, oi. Time to get out of this. Am I doomed for another 20 years at the same place, doing the same thing? It was lovely. It was profitable. It was enjoyable. But life is too short. So I came at a time where there's only 13 doctors. I had to do surgery, difficult obstetrics, everything, There was only 3 or 4 specialists, 2 or 3 specialists. So I was already pretty well trained, and I took 2 extra years of study. So I was comfortable, but not necessary anymore. More specialists and everybody was coming in. So I took off and I looked after Alaska and the whole Canadian Arctic from one end to the other over the next little while. And I did nothing but emergency medicine and at least 3 months every year studying, because there's so much to emergency medicine. And that's all I did for the last 15 years. From the Texas border, Arizona, Texas, the Rio Grande, right up to Alaska, right up to the Arctic coast. Most of it for free. On the American side, anyway. Yeah. So that was my ego, my ego is very, very big. And big frog. Yeah, in a little puddle. I like that. My ego demands it. But things can sometimes be very, very difficult and very, very stressed because you're dealing with life and death in emergency. I don't want to over dramatize it, but that's what comes in. And you're dealing with this, and you're all alone very, very often. I mean, the tragedies and the serious stuff can come in even from the smallest of hospitals, maybe that you're looking after alone. 40 beds, 50 beds, here, there, and everywhere. In Alaska, even in the different parts of Texas and so forth, and Canada, Northwest Territories, even northern BC, where I've been, where my brother had a gold mine. I've been to these places, and I've been the only doctor there. That can be very, very stressful, but you take it in stride because you're quite accustomed to it already. But then you get word that there's an ambulance coming in, and there are several people involved, 2-car collision, and it's on its way in. And even a few seconds later, you can even hear the sirens. What are you to do? What's your reaction? You certainly start looking for extra help. More nurses coming. You're the only doctor. No doctor's going to show up for some time. You just laugh. You laugh. It's a chuckle. It's a suppressed chuckle, but it's a chuckle nevertheless. It sort of relieves some tension inside. And then when they come in, it sorts itself out. You deal with the priorities. The person that's unconscious is number one. Is he breathing? He's not. Then put a tube in him. Make him breathe any way you can. So it works itself out. It's just like when you started to practice years and years ago. It was a difficult delivery. There's no way of knowing the outcome. Both mother and child are in peril. It's a difficult delivery. You're there all night. But lo and behold, Mother Nature, she does it. You try to give her a hand if you can. And you do, clumsily, but you do. And the sun's coming up on your way home. And you feel not just a peace, you feel a satisfaction, a joy. The tension is all over, but it's not for that reason. there's an accomplishment there. Not your own handiwork, no, but having assisted Mother Nature as best you could and witnessed something so remarkable. It's a privilege. And it's been a privilege throughout my 40 years in medicine to be able to do so. Very, very fortunate. Yeah. Never mind the excitement and the variety and the income derived. I never made a fortune. That wasn't my interest. I was lazy, and I was very interested in study and golf and fishing and whatever, all the joys that come with relaxation. But extremely fortunate. I've got 20,000 feet of my own film.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I spent something like $10,000 on my 16 millimeter.
oh yeah, I know, yeah.
No, the best film, the most expensive. You could get 300 copies of it. It was so expensive, and the 300th copy would look like the.
You have to convert it into digit.
That's right.
Because the film can be fragile now.
I know, yeah. This is some 40 years, a lot of it.
Yeah, but it's a unique material.
Yeah. It's Alaska. It's in the woods. It's wildlife. Yeah. Yeah, it's much the same. I fly in. I hire the pilot to pick me up again in 10 days. Hope he doesn't forget. Maybe the weather is in Alaska, Northwest Territories, the Queen Charlotte Islands, Haida, yeah, all these places. Sometimes I bring my son, not very often. We fish and enjoy. But you're never free of civilization. You're way up there in Alaska. He worked in Alaska too for a while and brought him up. And we go camping in the bush, miles and miles from civilization, flown in by a pilot to pick us up, or even sometimes by a boat like I had on the Queen Charlotte. And in the middle of the night, you think you're quiet, you look up, but then there's a goddamn jet, an American jet, flying to Fairbanks,
Yeah, I know.
You hear it, you don't see it. But there is no place to hide anymore. Yeah, especially from a military jet. That's the last thing you need. And yet your peace and tranquility is abused, not interrupted, it's abused. One doesn't have to be religious, is my excuse for not being so. I enjoy life and I appreciate things without having to be on my knees and thank who? I have no idea. But be thankful to something or somebody anyway. Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter who you speak to in your imagination or in reality. There's an appreciation that you just have to express. It's so deep inside. And to have been privileged to be a doctor, it's something very unique. And it's that I'm grateful for. Not my longevity. My longevity now is contaminated. It's contaminated with self-indulgences. But I don't regret any, because I like to think they're decent. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just love life. And especially self-indulgences. That's not drink. It's people that are close to me, my family, my friends, especially the musically inclined that I borrow from constantly. They make a life of it. I don't. I'm an interloper, but rubbing shoulders with them tolerating me and accompanying me and bringing me into their little sphere is something that's, again, that's something you have to experience to really appreciate. And it's made life worth living for me. And that's no bull. I look forward to the next time, the next rehearsal, and even the next performance, admittedly with some trepidation, some considerable trepidation, particularly when I'm asked the day before or 2 days before, and I haven't made any preparation, or very little. And yet somehow we squeeze through, thanks to the support, thanks to their support and their confidence. Distractions. Life has all manner of distractions, doesn't it, Denis? Pleasant and unpleasant. I'm still at a loss to consider whether this present interview is a good thing or just another bloody distraction from the more meaningful things in life. No, again, I like to kid. I appreciate your time and interest. I really do. I'm flattered all to hell and back.
Leonard first. Good-looking man on the camera.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yep.
Tes no sono
hope that's it.